hiring a coach is like having a GPS.
Welcome to Where She Builds,
the podcast where two globetrotting solopreneurs share the real journey of building a life and business on the move.
I'm Shandi, an online personal trainer helping people feel strong anywhere in the world.
And I'm Anna, creator of Your Travel Friend Anna, a global community and go-to resource for those wanting to live a fulfilling and culturally curious life.
Thanks for being here.
Let's dive into this week's episode.
Good morning, Anna.
Good morning, Shandi, or good afternoon, technically, to you.
Yes.
This is what happens when we're in different time zones.
How is it in your end of the world today or this morning?
My end of the world is wonderful. I'm going to talk about the weather because what else do people always start conversations with? Yesterday there was a heat advisory we got up to close to 30 degrees Celsius.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding. It was only for like a 2-hour period, and I think today's supposed to be similar weather. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I need to fly over there. It is rainy and cloudy and cold as heck here. I've been wearing my rain jacket, and I had to go to, well, I didn't have to go, but I went to a co-working place today, and I biked there, and I was on my bike, and I was just miserable with my with my rain jacket on. I'm biking as hard as I can. I probably looked like a real Dutchie at that moment, but
I was going to say, you're really painting a very classic Dutch picture and realistic lifestyle image for our listeners.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love this country. So nice, beautiful, great people. Sometimes the weather could improve a little bit and I wouldn't be mad about it.
I think that's why I used to live in Vancouver and I love the Netherlands, and I do. And in a heartbeat, I feel like I could live there. But then I think I left Vancouver that had rain, miserable, dark, cloudy. Why would I move somewhere that's very similar? But the strip waffles are calling my name sometimes.
They're amazing, right? I know. I love it. I love it.
Oh, it has been a busy week for us on the podcast behind the scenes. Just to let people in on what's been going on. This is our third recording of the week. We are batch recording a little bit right now because since we're travelers, right now we know we have good desks, good mics, good Wi-Fi, silent rooms, no partners, dogs, people, friends, cars. It is nice and
hopefully
quiet.
No rain.
Yeah, hopefully no rain. It has been an experience. It's been so fun to start this podcast with you. And I think for me, one of the biggest things that I've been working on this week, especially as we've been recording and talking much more than I'm used to, is delegating tasks between us and this new project and this new business. So what's your experience been like, Shandi, working with me?
Honestly, I'm going to take the very positive aspect of it because I've been really enjoying it. And I think I could probably speak for the both of us when I say that as a solopreneur, you're kind of having to make all of these, decisions on your own. And I really enjoy doing the podcast with you because then we can kind of put our heads together and think about things together, which I'm not really used to. So I think that's really nice on my perspective to just have somebody to lean on with those things. I've been trying to, this is probably one of Anna's points. Anybody who's listening who knows me personally knows that I'm not very good at replying to messages. And that's one of my very not so strong suits of my personality. But I have been trying my very best at replying to Anna's messages and her voice notes and everything. And maybe she has a different perspective on this, but I think it's been good for me so far. I've really enjoyed it and I really, really enjoy. I'm so excited for people to listen to these ones. But I really enjoy interviewing people too. And I think interviewing you and interviewing other people that we have on the podcast, I think it's so much fun to get to learn about other people and their missions and the way that they're building their businesses and the way that they're living their lives. I think it's so cool to dig deep and hone in on those things that it's something that I wouldn't ever think that I would enjoy so much.
Well, when do you get an opportunity to sit a friend down and say, I want to have an hour of your time and to dig through your brain for the purpose of learning and curiosity? I mean, sometimes you're gifted with that kind of conversation, but to have someone agree to sit down and do it is so different. But if you say we're going to record it, somehow people show up.
And they're like, I'll tell you my deepest, darkest secrets.
I know. You have also gotten better with your phone. I will say, I kind of expect now to wake up to a text message. So we have, I think, an 8-hour time difference right now. You know the math better.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I wake up and you've replied to my message, I'm happy. But I know throughout the day, or like as my day progresses and your evening begins, I'm not going to get a reply. So,
Nope.
but luckily, I'm used to working international with people. But I think it's been great. And I can definitely echo what you're saying about being able to brainstorm, think through. You're so good at like keeping us lower. No, let me rephrase this properly. Like keeping my big ideas or like I want to do it all feeling at bay. Because I know we can't do it all, but I just get excited. And you're like, can we actually do that? And you're just like so calm
More of a
about it.
realist with those things.
Which I'm a realist too. But in the moment, I just get hyped and I get excited
Yeah.
about it. And then I'm like, oh, I have to, there's so much behind the scenes to actually
Yeah.
launch a podcast. So,
But I think that's what I appreciate about our relationship with working on this is that we are different in those aspects. So I think we really work well together on those parts. Like you bring so much energy and so much chattiness and so much everything to the podcast. And then I'm a little bit more of the, I don't know, quiet, introverted, but listening more on those things. And I think we really work well together on that way. And I think I'm really excited to see where this can take us.
maybe it's because I do record, and those who are on YouTube, I definitely have a cup of coffee next to me. So I feel like because I always start with like coffee in the veins, maybe that's why I bring the energy. But we'll see when I record in the evening how things go.
I tried to
Um,
match your energy today with another cup of coffee, so we'll see how this goes.
Will you sleep tonight is the question.
Probably not, but we're doing it for the podcast.
It's also been fun to like learn how to delegate tasks, and we're both solopreneurs, so we're used to having to make decisions about our website, about our pricing, doing our invoicing, accounting, bookkeeping, marketing, and let alone the actual program or project that we're working on. And so one thing that we've been experiencing is the promotion of this podcast and getting it on social media and creating those kind of short form pieces. And for me, it's been having to learn to be patient, to trust. I know you will get it done, but for me, I'm always in the like, I could do it right now. And it's definitely been a, what's the right word? Like a fault of mine in the past in relationships and friendships. It's like, I'll just do it.
Yeah.
And then I burn out or I don't get the thing that I wanted to prioritize done. So I'm like, it's okay. She'll do it. Trust it. And it'll be good. I know you're going to do a great job. And it allows me to stay focused on the tasks that I committed to doing.
Mm. And then, yeah, so from my perspective on that is that I think one of my strong suits is very much delegating time for myself to do certain things. So there's like a chunk of time per week that I have set aside for making social media. And there's a chunk of time that I have set aside for doing more marketing business for my part. And now I'm trying to find that chunk of time that kind of works because we were just started with this to try to find that time that can fit that's more sustainable for me about like building that podcast habit into my week so that I know that I can get it done. And I'm very much a reliable person. Like I get things done. But it's just finding that time, right? It's just building that habit. I'm going to speak about that a lot as well throughout the podcast, but it's just building that habit that's new and finding how it can work for you. And there's going to be some flops about it too. Like there's probably going to be some weeks where it's a little bit rushed or panicked, but that's just part of the process too. And there's going to be weeks where it feels really great and I can batch a lot of things or we can batch a lot of things, and that's just how it's going to go. But we're just going to be together along the journey, and I'm really excited to be working with you on this.
Oh, it's so nice. It's so cute. But I totally agree with the same. And the thing is, like, if you're panicked, I might be chilling and be like, don't worry, I can pick things up. I don't know about the editing, if you can help pick things up. We have identified.
Not yet. But I'm sure I'm going to learn.
I'm sure you could learn it. For sure you could learn it. It's a very, like, there is so many tutorials, and I think you are very adaptable. I just think, yeah, when you come in with any kind of pre-skill set of long form content, it definitely makes it, or like keyboard shortcuts, even knowing those, gosh, makes your life so much easier. But I know I could rely on you if need be. And yeah, it's just been so fun. And I'm like, I just feel so blessed that I get to like absorb your time too, because when we used to meet once a month for a chit chat, I was like, oh, I just want like more Shandi time. So now I get you like at least once a week. So
You might regret saying that.
nah, I don't think I will. I don't think I will. And we also have this it's kind of interesting because maybe I'll go into this, that we've had some of our male friends and acquaintances subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, and the boys are curious about what's going on in the Where She Built world. So it's a little motivation to show up and say, yeah, you probably wish you were part of this. So
yeah.
Anyway, girls rule.
Girls rule. I just think it's so cool that we're doing this, honestly. And I don't want to be patting ourselves on the back all the time and like holding ourselves
big
up.
Big ball energy. We are patting ourselves on the back. Like we're rephrasing all this.
Yeah. I just think it's going to be so beneficial for, especially if the people or the person listening to this, let's say, identifies as a female entrepreneur or a female traveler or somebody that's really looking for that inspiration to just start doing something. I think this is going to be the perfect podcast series for them to look at themselves a little bit differently and try to think like, oh, if Shandi and Anna can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah, anyone can do it. And to clarify, just for listeners, we will have male guests on the podcast. We have one coming up soon with a male guest. But I think what's interesting too is, you know, I've watched male interviewers and interviewees, and I think the conversation is so different when a female's in the room. I think naturally things go more emotional or with more feeling. And I love to bring that out in some of my male entrepreneurs who are just so business driven, so transactional. And I'm like, well, how did that feel? And they're like, oh, that's a good question. So we will, it is for the girls, but we definitely, I think, because I feel male workers or male colleagues bring such a different perspective to things. And I've really admired the males in my life and how they are so transactional in the way they think. And one of the best business friends of mine, he's so good at money stuff. And he always tells me, Anna, whatever money or whatever dollar amount you have in your head, double it. And I'm always like, what? Like, that's so much money. But he's like, just do it.
And I think it's also good to note that we all have our different strengths and we have our different weaknesses. And one thing that is, I think, more looked at as a weakness is being emotional. But I think it's also a good way to look at it as a strength as well, because maybe there's not a place for emotion in some particular instances, but I think emotion can also be utilized as a strength in other instances. So that's something that we can also bring to the table is say like, hey, you know what, I am feeling emotional about this, but either I can push through it or I can notice and name it and continue on. So I think that's also something that we can bring in.
Notice and name it. I'm going to steal that phrase because it's definitely been, one day maybe we'll have an episode about the female cycle, because for me that affects for sure my workflow as a solopreneur. And you just said notice and name it. I'm noticing some things right now and I'm going to name them, and I know what time it is, and just to notice them and like change maybe my workflow a little bit right now, which I think some of our male counterparts don't experience this unspoken things that are changing our workflow. But I'm going on a tangent. What's new here? What else has been happening in Shandi's week this week? Like, anything exciting? Any meal things to share? I feel like we want to dip into Shandi's life. Like, what did you have for lunch?
Good question. Some leftovers.
What do you eat these days?
So we just got back from our trip a couple days ago, and it was like at the time of this podcast recording. Now we wanted to utilize a little bit of what we have in the apartment again. So we made some crock pot meals, and that's something that we've really, because both Patrick and I, my partner and I, were very, like, we're both entrepreneurs. So we're working a lot of hours that don't really allow us to spend a lot of time cooking sometimes, or we get home late at night and we don't know what we're going to eat. So the easiest thing for us is just to throw something in the crock pot and then come home and it's already made, and we just make some rice or something. So we had, on Sunday, we made some batch meals and we made some Korean beef, and then we made some rice, and then we added a bunch of vegetables to it. So beans and peas and peppers and all these different things. And then we've just been having it for lunch the past couple days. And I mean, I enjoy it. It's not like anything super crazy, but it's nice, it's easy, and it's sustainable. And that's something that in this, let's say, period of our life when we're so busy building our businesses, it's just something that's easy and not having to, let's say, eat out all the time, which also saves money and saves you can just eat a lot more nutritiously, and you know what's going in your food when you're cooking it yourself.
Yeah, definitely. But my question is, did Patrick know about a crock pot before he met you?
Yeah, you know what? Patrick is an amazing cook.
But
I've
my thing
actually
is,
learned.
a crock pot is such a North American thing. It's a slow cooker. For those who don't know, it's like a
Yeah, okay.
big pot or a big
Yeah,
dish that you plug into an outlet and it heats it for hours, from like 6 to 10 hours usually.
yeah.
And it's great for meats that can like really render down. It says the vegetarian. I know, like I know what I'm talking about. But when I did eat meat, I do remember it being great. So
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
surprised you have a
they
crock
have it
pot.
here. Yeah.
Ah,
Well, I don't
okay.
think they call it a crock pot here. I think that's like the brand name, which I've noticed that I don't know if it's a Canadian thing, but we use brand names for a lot of things that
Oh,
then
we
I say
do.
like Kleenex, for example. I say, "Oh,
Kleenex,
can you pass me the
Q-tips,
Kleenex?" Yeah. It's
Q-tips, which
so
are cotton
strange.
swabs, Band-Aids, which are
Plasters?
plasters. I really had
Yeah.
to think. We both
I don't
had to
know.
think on that
Well, because
one for
in
a
Dutch they
second.
call it pleisters, I think. So plasters, maybe. I
The
don't
first
know.
time I heard actually a British friend say, or either my British or my New Zealand friend, and I was like, a what? It's like, oh, you want a Band-Aid? Okay. What are other ones? I think this is funny.
Yeah,
Kleenex,
right?
Q-tips, Band-Aid.
Crock pot.
Um, I would say like Swiffer instead of duster, I guess, or like
Okay.
any kind of dust collector. We just call it the Swiffer. It is a Swiffer, but
Yeah. Yeah.
even the fluffy, I'm like holding my hand in the air. Even the fluffy feather things.
Maybe this is a very unique one, but you know that spray that we have, like kind of like an olive oil spray? We call it Pan or Pam or
Yep.
something.
Yep.
That
Pam.
one, I would
Pam.
just say like, pass me the Pam, and then it
Yep.
would be that olive oil spray. But if I said
Yep.
that to Patrick, no clue.
I'm trying to think of some others like, I mean, ketchup, but is it?
I think it's just
It's just ketchup.
I think it's just ketchup. I
Or
think
did
that's what
Heinz
it's known.
trademark that?
I have no idea.
Next
I
time
feel
I'm at
like
a
we need to
restaurant, I'm
look
gonna
into
look.
this
Yeah,
and
yeah.
circle
Next
back
time I'm
to
at
it
a
because now I'm really,
restaurant,
yeah.
hmm,
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
would say, yeah, there's just some like, I don't know, there's definitely some weird things in my house too, but like they're particular to our house. Like we've always just called this certain type of mustard Senf, but Senf in German is mustard. But in our house,
Oh,
we just know which mustard is Senf. Like it is
right.
the German mustard.
You just make it smaller. So you're like, instead of saying, pass me the German mustard, Senf.
Yeah, so but it's always been that. So when I finally found out that Senf meant mustard, which hopefully I'm correct, anyone comment below if my German's off, but I was like mind blown that, oh, we've just been calling mustard mustard.
Just in a different language.
Yeah. I don't know. We just yeah, like we don't say, I mean, my mom makes Dutch pancakes sometimes and we just we'll say it in Dutch like pass het poedersuiker instead of, you'll probably pronounce it better, but it's not the powdered sugar. Like when my friends
Yeah.
would come over and they'd be like, "Can I have that like powdered sugar?" I'm like, "What are you talking? It's
See,
poedersuiker."
and my family would call it icing sugar. I don't know if that's a different thing.
I would
Actually.
if I was baking with it.
Okay.
Whereas we buy the Dutch in the shaky
Oh,
can
the poedersuiker.
poedersuiker, the
Okay.
real
Yeah.
stuff.
See, and this is a not a fight, but this is something that Patrick and I talk about all the time is when he makes the Dutch pannenkoeken. I'm like, oh, it's just a crepe. And he's like, it's
No,
not a crepe. And I was like, it's the same thing. He's like,
no,
no,
it's
pannenkoeken
not.
are thicker and this. And so you're going to be on Patrick's
I'm
side.
on
But
that side.
so my grandparents, they come from the Netherlands originally. And my
Okay.
grandma would always just make crepes. And so I grew up thinking that crepes were Dutch, maybe. And then so when we had this conversation with Pat, he was like, oh no, this is pannenkoeken. I'm like, it's the same thing. I don't
I
know.
don't think it's the same because of the edges. The biggest thing is the edges. So a crepe gets thin and crispy on the side, almost to a point where you could break it off. It's kind of brittle and it has almost
Okay.
those air pockets where it's very thin on the side. Whereas a pannenkoek is thick to the edges and it's almost thin across. And it's so you can fill it more. Like a crepe you eat with light things on the inside. You do butter and like, or sugar and lemon. You do like a soft butter layer. Whereas a pannenkoek needs to be sturdy enough to put ham and cheese in and to roll it and eat it. So I'm on
Oh.
Patrick's side because there's also Russian crepes. Such a side note story. I was staying in Montenegro at this hostel and there was a Russian gentleman. I honestly think he was bored every day. I don't think he had anything like any responsibilities and wasn't interested in touring. and he would make Russian crepes, I swear, for 3 to 4 hours every morning.
Wow.
But they are so thin, and they are supposed to have a lot of air pockets from my observation. So they're even, so I feel like I'm holding up my hands. On the left, we have Russian crepes that are so airy and thin. Then we have French crepes in the middle, which get a little bit thicker. And then we have pannekuchen on the far side, which are much thicker.
There we go.
But I'll have
Comment
to come over
below.
and taste Patrick's pannekuchen. So then I know if his are so thin, I'll be like, bro, yours are crepes.
We'll keep you posted.
I wonder, do pannekuchen have eggs in them though?
I think so. Yeah.
I don't think. I'm trying to think if crepes do now. Or if they're just flour and water.
I'm not the one to ask because I think they're the same. So
Like, should ChatGPT help us in this moment?
yeah.
Okay, so next update, we will come back to you with what is the recipe for crepe versus a Dutch pancake.
I'll still say that it's the same thing.
Pat, I'm on your side if you're listening, just so you know. All right, we're going to slowly get into today's episode, but thank you so much for listening, and I hope you love this update. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
I am so excited to showcase the other half of talent behind this podcast. Shandi is a certified personal trainer. She holds her level 1 certificate for precision nutrition, as well as a bachelor's of science majoring in kinesiology. She has traveled to over 40 countries, which is crazy, experienced van life for over 5 years, and she currently calls the Netherlands home. So welcome officially to your interview, Shandi.
Thanks, Anna.
It's not that hard. It's not an interview. It's just a chit chat. And it's so great that we get to focus on you and your skill set, because I know how special you are. And it's been such a joy to get to know you through this process and over the last year and a half of our friendship. And I just can't wait to share how humble, authentic, kind, and why I was attracted to you, to build a friendship with you. So I'm pumped. So how are we feeling today?
I'm humbled by how sweet you are.
Oh my gosh, but it's so easy. Like, I feel it's always so easy to hype someone up when the things you're hyping them up about are true. Like, I'm not a compliment type person. So anyway, it's easy.
Well,
But
I
I feel
appreciate that.
yeah, we're gonna like fill your cup a little bit before we get started. But to start us off, I feel like we need to reverse time and go back in your story, because I think a lot of your story, as I've gotten to know it as your friend, has shaped who you are today, where you are, and like one moment I think could have completely changed the trajectory of your last 5 to 7 years.
No, 100%. And for the rest of my life.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Your future.
Not to be dramatic, but yes.
So when we first met, which was in Montenegro, you can go back to episode 1 to hear that story. But you said you were from Canada. I was like, oh my gosh, me too. And I was expecting you to be from Quebec. And then you said, no, I'm from Western. I said, me too. And then you said, I'm from Alberta, which is a province we're both from. And then you told me the town you were from. And I was like, oh my gosh, we grew up like 2.5, 3 hours away.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
And we had to meet in Montenegro.
I know.
Wild.
So you grew up in the province of Alberta, where it's dry, it's flat, it has harsh winters. So describe your childhood to me. The hardest thing to do.
The hardest thing to do. Honestly, I had a great childhood. Like, I have nothing bad to say about it. My parents are, or were, and are still amazing. Like, I have such a great relationship with my parents and with my sister. And flash forward to here, it's a little bit hard to be away from them all the time because I did grow up so close together. But yeah, childhood wise, I grew up in a really small town. Anybody that's listening, it's called Hannah, which is the home of Nickelback.
Which is like a big, I think most North Americans, look at this photograph. That song.
Exactly. And that was a meme for the longest time.
Isn't it like on the sign when you enter the town?
Yeah. It's like home of Nickelback. And then if you go around the town, there was somebody that I can't remember her name, but she like painted all of their CD covers and everything. And it's all around town. So you can kind of do like a little tour around Hannah that just shows all of the Nickelback CD albums. And honestly, that's something, it's such a good conversation starter when we're traveling. People are like, oh, where are you from? And I was like, oh, small town, Alberta. It's called Hannah. Do you know Nickelback? And they're either like, oh yeah, Nickelback. I love it so much. Or they're like, oh, Nickelback. And there's only one or two ways. You either love them or you hate them. But I'm so proud to be from Hannah.
I think it's dating out a little bit too. Like this Gen Z
Yeah.
crowd's like, I don't know who you're talking about. So then it also helps you identify people of the same age.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, going back, like growing up in a small town, I think I can compare it to, because my partner Patrick, he is from let's say bigger city. And so we're comparing what it was like growing up in small town versus bigger cities. And honestly, I'm so grateful that I grew up in the town that I grew up in. It was so, one of the, let's say, downsides was that it was a little bit more sheltered. So I didn't really get a lot of outside things, let's say, coming in. But the cool thing about a small town is that everybody knows everybody. So if you need something, you can knock on your next door neighbor and their door and they come and help you within a second, or you call anybody and they're there within 2 minutes. Like you have so much support around you. And I still see that to this day. Like I don't live in Hannah anymore, but the majority of my clients that I have online are from Hannah. And that's something that I so appreciate, and I do not take for granted whatsoever. It's just the amount of support that you get in a small town you don't have in bigger cities. And that's something that I like, if I ever look at wanting to have kids, I would want to be maybe in a smaller town because of that. But on the other hand, then you also, because everybody knows you, they know your business. And if you do something, as a kid, you do something stupid, then that follows you a little bit. So there's two ends to it. But yes, childhood wise, I had a great childhood growing up. Very sporty. My family didn't take on a lot of trips, let's say, so that travel instinct for me wasn't really big as a kid. But like I was a big swimmer. I was a competitive swimmer for many years. Every single summer that I remember was based around going to different swim meets and everything and competing that way. And I was very competitive always. Like I had this competitive with other people, but also competitive with myself in a way that when I was growing up, because I was a big swimmer, I wanted to get 50 medals. That was my goal. And then I would retire for swimming. And then I reached the 50 medals and I was like, oh, now I'm done. And I became a swim coach and I loved that aspect of it. I loved coaching. I loved all of the kids that I coached and I just loved being part of the community. And that was something that I really enjoyed. And I think that's also what stemmed me going into university life and wanting to study kinesiology too, was because of I had such a great, let's say, relationship with sport because of that experience.
So cool. I feel like small town gives the true meaning of community and helping one another, and just that as small towns, people don't come and go as quickly. In big cities, it's so transient. So I feel like you can actually build those trusting relationships that your neighbor will give you sugar for your cake when you need it. That kind of silly analogy.
Absolutely. Well, honestly, like I think the cool thing too is that like around good times and bad times, let's say, with when my grandma passed, like it's such a normal thing that in small towns people just bring food to your door and you have like food for months on end because there's just the whole town showing up and supporting you that way and being there for you. Whereas let's say in bigger cities, you don't really have that. And that's something that for me was so normal. And I was talking to Patrick about it and he was like, oh no, we didn't ever have that. Like if you needed the support, it was your family supports you, but the community not so much. And that's, again, like I'm going to beat it until it's said, like that's something that I so appreciate about growing up in a small town.
It's so beautiful, so beautiful. And then, as you said, you moved away for university. So you went to what probably felt like a big city, but is definitely still a small city in terms of Canada and the world. And you went to Lethbridge, the Windy City, it's also known as, for university.
Yeah. Honestly, it felt like little girl in a big city. It felt like I moved to New York or something. It was such a big difference for me. And anybody that knows me, I was a little bit nervous for driving too. Like I moved there with one of my best friends and she was always like making fun of me because I was so nervous about driving in Lethbridge. And then fast forward a couple years later, I was driving in New Zealand on my own. So it's just, there's such a big
You weren't nervous to drive because it was a big city?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because growing up in a small town, like you can drive in the middle of the road. There's no traffic. Nobody cares. You can park sideways.
You had to follow
There's
rules.
no rules. Yeah, exactly.
I just need to paint an accurate picture. It is still very much a small city, everyone, and the roads are very wide. I don't think they have a rush hour.
No.
So, and well, in university, there was this. I still don't really understand what made you think, yeah, I'm going to do that. But you had an opportunity to do a semester abroad in Malaysia. And I am thinking when I was probably in university, I'd have to for sure look on a map where Malaysia was. And what did small town Shandi think? And what made you say, yeah, I'll go do that?
Yeah, honestly, I was delirious.
Delulu.
No, it's actually quite a funny and serendipitous story. I think that I was sitting in physics class one day and there was a girl that was sitting in front of me and I had no idea who she was. She turned around and said, "Do you want to be my friend?" I said, "Sure," because I'm a very introverted person and I never made friends very easily. So I think I can't remember what year university, maybe my third or fourth year already. And I didn't have that many friends in university because I was so like introverted, scared to talk to people. So when she turned around and said, "Hey, you want to be my friend?" I was like, "Yes, please." I want a friend. And she was so extroverted and so out there and so everything that I wasn't. So it was such a fun difference with that, like that energy. And so we went out for a couple of coffee dates and it was like really nice to get to know her and kind of make a friend that way. And then one day she's like, "I've been looking at doing a semester abroad and I think I'd go to Malaysia. Do you want to come with me?" And I was like, "Where is Malaysia? What is that?" "No, I don't want to come with you, but interesting." So I thought about it and I was like, what is the trajectory of my life going right now? Like I'm in my third or fourth university and I'll graduate with my Kines degree in a year and a half kind of thing, 2 years, whatever. But what do I want to do with my life? And a few, let's say a few years before that, or when I was younger, let's say we went on a trip to San Francisco when I was 14 or something, or 12 even. And I remember stepping off the plane. That was the first time that I remember being on a plane. We stepped off the plane going into San Francisco and I was like, oh my gosh, this
Different
feeling
world.
of just seeing so much different from small town Hannah. I was like, this is amazing that there's different culture, there's different people like doing different things. There's shops here. There's like, it was just
There was
amazing.
water.
I was just, my mind was boggled. I can't put into words how life-changing that moment was for me. So then, then when she asked if I wanted to go to Malaysia, I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's see where this takes me. And then actually that year, my aunt and uncle, they lived in Australia. So then that was kind of the year that I also took the plunge to go with my cousin to go to Australia. And that kind of just fed the fire of, I love traveling. I want to do this. So then when Malaysia came, I was like, yeah, let's do it. So then we buddied up and we went to to the area to apply to go to Malaysia. And that was how we did it. We just were like, okay, yeah, we want to do a semester abroad. And they were like, okay, figure out the visa process. You guys can go the next semester. And so we went to Malaysia in February of that year.
And you were there for 6 months. I know that you toured around a lot. There was a lot of traveling within that, but it was 6 months, a 6 month semester, or just 6 months abroad in total?
I think it was a 4 month semester, no, 5 month semester. And then we had a month that I could travel. It was I came home in July. So it was about a month of travel afterwards. Yeah, it sounds very ridiculous, but it was a life-changing experience, honestly. Like when I was in university in Lethbridge, like I said, I had a little bit of a hard time making friends. And it was just kind of like I didn't really find anyone that I don't know, that I connected with on a different level. Like it was just like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Hannah. And then it was like, oh, I'm from this place. And then that's kind of it. It just kind of sizzled out. But then when I went to Malaysia, I actually met people that we had commonalities. We were all interested in this new travel life and we were all interested, like we were in Malaysia. So that already kind of takes down the amount of people that would go there and take that plunge already. So then you really, I don't know, you really connect on a different level that way. And that was a really cool feeling to be able to meet people that you actually connect with on a deeper level. And then you realize that those relationships can actually happen. Because prior to that, I didn't know that you could have such a deep feeling with people and to have that relationship and to carry it on. I didn't know that it was possible. So it was a really cool experience with
making friendships and building lifelong friendships too.
Wow. I know that recently it's one of the girls that you met there. You've like vacationed with her, met with her, and this is what we're talking like 5,
7 years.
6,
Yeah.
7 years later.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
And
And
there was mhm.
yeah, it's amazing. Like it's so cool we met up with her in Copenhagen. So I hadn't seen her for 7 years, but we've been texting back and forth. And then I meet her in Copenhagen again. And it was just like we saw each other yesterday. It's just that connection that stays there. And it's so hard to describe, but it is, I'm so thankful for that opportunity, honestly.
I really do think some friendships stand the test of time. There's friendships that require day-to-day interaction and that tight closeness and the constant updating. And then there's friendships you can part ways for years, call them up and just be like, yeah, you can stay at my, like, there's just that instant foundation that as long as you're kind of the same person, which most people genuinely are, then it's such a beautiful thing. And there was one friendship that started in Malaysia that kind of is the thing that has affected your whole life. So share what you wish on this side of things.
No, 100%. Yeah. So when I was in Malaysia, we had a group of 97 people that all came together. Yeah, it was a big student exchange group. And so of course you connect with different people that way. And then yeah, there was a group of guys that came there. We referenced them as the Dutch guys. And
Because they were
we just
Dutch.
because they were Dutch, yes, the Dutch guys. And yeah, we started hanging out with each other, big groups of people. And then closer to the end of the time that I was in Malaysia, then that was kind of when I started to think about, okay, what kind of people do I want to continue to have in my life after this experience? Because of course you don't want it to just be like done and over with if you make such a good connection with people. So that was like there's some girls that I traveled with in Bali, and I became really close with them, and that was a connection that I really wanted to keep with. And then there was another connection, and so many people that you have this connection with. And then this specific connection, it was closer to the end of the trip, I think beginning of July, that Patrick and I started talking, and it really became such a deep friendship that it was like we connected on so many different levels. Again, like I didn't expect that you could connect with somebody in that way. And it was such a raw emotional feeling that like you get me to my core. Like I know exactly who you are, and we only met like a few months ago, but I know exactly who you are, what you want, and that connection was so strong. So then we made a deal with each other that we're like, oh, we'll just call once a month just to see how we're doing and everything. And once this trip is over, and it's just kind of, we'll see if we can meet up in a couple years kind of thing with everybody, and that's kind of it. But then, yeah, we called once a month, and then once a month didn't feel like enough. So then we started calling once a week, and then once a week didn't feel like enough. And we started calling once a day, and that didn't feel like enough. So we ended up calling like a couple times a day, every single day for months. And then that was kind of how Patrick and I's relationship started. And we thought, oh, well, how are we going to make this work? Because he was from the Netherlands, or is from the Netherlands. And of course, I'm from Canada. And we're like, we live on opposite sides of the world. What is the chances of us, first of all, ever meeting? And then the chances of a long distance relationship ever working? Like we were still thinking of each other as friends, friends at that point. We're like, yeah, this isn't gonna.
Can we give context to age here? I usually don't like to give age because I think anything can happen at any age, but I just want to circle back for a second because I found it really interesting you saying that there was a certain point towards the end of the trip that you decided who you wanted to keep in your life. And I think that was a very mature thought to have at, I think around, was it 21, 22? Is my math right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an extremely first of all, you're in Malaysia, you're like so overstimulated, and then you're having this mature thought of like, who do I want to continue in my life? Where you have no clue where the trajectory of your life is going. You're just trying to finish your degree, which I think many people in university, post university are. What's next? What's this chapter? You get this degree, you can start your life and your career. And definitely in Western society, we have that pressure. So at 21, you're talking to this person abroad, and you're also trying to like, it's a big shift at that age.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, of course, I didn't think about it at the time. And I think I always say it's a downfall of mine of being so introverted, but I think one of the positives of being introverted is that I'm very self-reflective. So I was really aware of how I was feeling there and how, let's say, included I felt in everything, and how like I just felt like a different person when I was there, to be honest. Like I felt like I was capable of doing anything. And that was the first time I've ever felt like that. Because, like I said, growing up in a small town, because you have eyes on you all the time, it's hard to grow because then people think that you're being fake or that you're, let's say, changing, and change is scary. And small towns are sometimes a little bit hard to grow in. And that was my perspective anyway. So I kept going back to Hannah all the time. But then when I was in Malaysia, I was like, I have a new group of people that don't know who I was. So I can choose to be anyone that I want to be. And
Oh,
for me, yeah.
I love that. That feeling when traveling is like,
Yeah.
you can just show up as yourself because no one
Yeah.
knows you. So you just
Yeah.
get to be whoever you want to be.
Exactly. And you can bring that energy, and you can, like you said, you can be whoever you want to be, and there's no limit. Like you could be this, like for me, the exact opposite of who I was in Lethbridge, like this introverted, scared, no, let's say I didn't have a lot of confidence. In Malaysia, I was the most confident self. Like I did things in Asia that I couldn't ever believe that I would do in Canada. Like for example, I went on a solo trip. First of all, super scary. Who goes on solo trips? I went on a solo trip. I just booked it like the week before. I went to New Zealand out of the blue, rented a car, drove on the other side of the road for the whole week that I was there. I went skydiving. I went
Shandy.
just because my dad told me not to, and I'm very much like, I don't like being told not to. Sorry, Dad, if you're listening to this. But he just said, oh, you're not going to jump out of a perfectly fine plane. And I said, okay, let's do it. And then I just did it. And that's something that Canadian Shandi growing up in small town would never do. And I think that was a good test for my abilities, was just to see how far I can push myself out of my comfort zone. And I think that really set me up for being here to this day. Like the amount of things that I've done that I would, let's say 10 years ago, Shandi would be like, who the heck are you? And what are you doing? You're not Shandi. And that's something that I really wanted to push when I was there.
Wow. Yeah, that's some big ball energy. Jumping out that plane. Okay, so let's get to, so you're chatting with Pat and you guys decide to meet up somewhere the first time, obviously, and you know, there's some time with this relationship now, but let's get to like, you know, because I think a lot of people meet people abroad, they have a connection. I've had experiences like this, but to know both of you are genuinely interested, I think that's what's so different with some of these long distance relationships where one party might be super involved. I'll do anything. I'll fly to you. I'll drop everything. Let's make this work. And the other person's like, if it's convenient. And so how did you know that you guys were both and like make that commitment to one another to try something?
To be honest, I don't know. It was just, I think it was just a mutual respect for each other. I think that was the biggest thing, was that we both respected each other so much, and then we just wanted to see where it would go, and we didn't have any expectations, let's say, for the relationship when we first started talking, because like I got back home July of 2018, and then I didn't see him again until November of that year. And so it was quite a few.
That bad, but
it wasn't bad. But then like when you're starting, let's say, a relationship, or you're starting to talk to each other, get to know each other, that I think that face to face is really important. And then I remember stepping off that plane, like I flew to the Netherlands in November, like during the reading week that we had. And I stepped off that plane and I was so nervous. I was just shaking, and I was like, what if I don't even, like, am I going to get catfished? Like, I know the guy, but I don't know. I don't know if I actually know him, you know? And then he picked me up, and it was just like how it was a few months ago. And that immediate connection was there, and that immediate trust was there. And that was something that I hadn't ever had with anybody else before. And then it was just kind of a dedication of, okay, well, I'm only here for a week. What do you want to do about this? Like, do we want to keep it going, or do we want to just say, like, it was fun while it lasted, really great to have this connection, let's, you know, continue the calls, but don't expect it to go anywhere. But then Patrick, of course, you know Pat, but he was very much like, let's keep it going. And he's such a sweet guy that it was just, there was never a time in my head that there was a lack of commitment from him, or that he didn't want it. Like, he has always made what he wanted very clear. And it was, for me, it was like a
some
no-brainer.
Dutch directness,
yeah,
maybe.
exactly.
Which we're used to
Yeah.
in Canada. Some like,
yeah, Exactly. So it was refreshing, and that was something that we continued on our relationship the whole time, was just no expectations, just we continue to put in the effort, and if we both want it, then we'll keep it.
I think it's a classic, the phrase, if he wanted to, he would. And I think a majority of stories I hear about this is, unfortunately, often it is heavier on the male side of
Yeah.
just being casual about things, and the females often more into it. But it's so refreshing to hear that there was a mutual, like, I'm into this and I'm into exploring it and I'm into committing to the idea of something with this. And it sounded like you guys weren't like, oh my God, day one, we're boyfriend, girlfriend, we're gonna have a life together forever. But there was a clear commitment to the intentionality of getting to know each other and talking. So somehow van life started then around 2020. So can you give us like the 5 times sped up version to how that happened? And you're in Europe?
Yeah. So of course, the relationship continued on for a few years, and then, where do I start? Then we went to Mexico for a while after we had both graduated, and the plan was to travel around. We went to Mexico, and then we wanted to travel around South America. And then we started hearing about this COVID thing, and we didn't know what it was, but it was starting to get a little bit scary. And then people were talking about all the toilet paper running out, and that was something that we were like, oh, what is this? So long story short, I get a call from my mom, who is not usually like a nervous person. Like, she's very laid back, very chill. And she was like, I think you guys need to come home. We were in Colombia at the time. And then I looked at Pat and I thought, like, okay, if my mom is saying this, I think maybe we should go. So then we booked a flight that day. And then the time that we landed in Canada, we flew back to Canada. The time that we landed in Canada, while we were in the air, the Canadian government had called that they were going to close all the borders. So any planes that had not taken off already, any foreigners would be sent back to their countries. So Pat just made it, like, within
I got
hours.
goosebumps.
Yeah. So I was like, thank mom for convincing us to come when we did, because then Pat was able to stay in Canada. But then, of course, with the European visas, they're only allowed to stay for 6 months. So we stayed for 6 months in Canada. And then we were looking at, like, okay, what do we do now? So I applied for, I think it was called like a work or experience the culture visa or something for the Netherlands. And it was a year-long visa. And that was what I applied for when we flew to Europe, because Pat's visa ran out in Canada. And then I got that visa settled out and everything. And then we were staying with Pat's mom. And then it was just kind of like, oh, well, we're both really enjoy traveling. What do we want to do? Of course, you can't travel during COVID time, because it was really like at that time that everything was shut down. It was the end of 2020 by that time. And then, then we were looking at, like, I was looking at Instagram a lot, about YouTube, everything. And I saw a bunch of things that people coming up about van life. And I kind of just brought up the idea to Patrick, thinking like, this is kind of a crazy idea, but we'll just see what happens. And he was so for it. And he was just like, yeah, let's do it. And then he started planning everything. Like, he he had an entire document of like, what steps need to be taken. We need to buy the van first, and how are we going to build it? He was so meticulous about it. And I was just like, it was just an idea, Pat, like, calm down. He was so for it. And then that just made me so for it. And then, by the end of, I think, December 2020, we bought the van. And I remember driving away with the van, and we're just like, what the heck did we just do? We bought this van. What are we going to do with it? It was like like a painter's van or something. Like, there was just,
okay.
Yeah, there was nothing in it. It was super dirty and super gross. There was stuff on top, and it was just this bare bones van. And then so we started doing a lot of research, looking on YouTube for different things about how to build a van, because we don't know how to build a van. And then fast forward 4 or 5 months, and we had our van that we have now. We created it into a little home on wheels. And then that was kind of when the borders started to relax a little bit. Then the country started turning yellow, which was like, just, you're allowed to travel there, but just be careful. But honestly, the van life was actually better than living in an apartment at that time, because you didn't have to go anywhere. Like, you could just travel. You could stay, let's say, park on a parking lot. Nobody's around you. So you just have that space to yourself, and you can walk around in nature if it was allowed. And then we just kind of went around there, and then borders started to open up, like really, really open up. And then we just started traveling around Europe, and we did that for 3 years. We did like just all
Wow.
over the place for it. Yeah.
This is such, I feel like I've learned so much, and I knew this story, but I didn't know all of the story. And I feel like this is like a whole other episode in terms of like visas and negotiating that.
Oh.
And we can definitely go into that because I think it's really important when people
Yeah.
start any kind of long distance relationship. Many people have experienced this, but
Mm-hmm.
when in the van, Coach Shandi began. Is that accurate to say?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Coach Shandi began, you have this degree in kinesiology. You've obviously like started to explore what that looks like work-wise, but you dive into solopreneurship. And because I do know your partner, I also know your partner is an entrepreneur, and that, you know, when you're surrounded by like-minded people, it's not so hard to do this kind of crazy idea. So
Yeah.
bring us into like what the starting part of the program was, what it looked like, and yeah, those first dreams.
Yeah. Honestly, so it started, we had the van, and we both didn't have incomes, so we didn't know what to do. And then I started just kind of Googling around what would be a job that you could do online. And the first thing that came up was teaching English online. So I applied for this platform. It was called VIP Kid, and you're teaching English to children in China. So that was something that I started doing, and you needed a degree to do it, like to apply for the platform. So I was like, okay, well, I have a kinesiology degree. I don't know if that counts as being able to teach somebody English, but sure. Then they hired me, and then I started teaching. I can't even remember how long I taught for, probably about a year, honestly. And that started while we were in Colombia, I think, or when I was in Canada, like during COVID. So then it was kind of the in between time of building the van and then starting to travel. But then, yeah, after that, I realized like I liked the teaching part of it. Like I liked coaching people, and I knew that before as well because I was a speed swimmer coach as well, and I really like to encourage people to do better and to improve themselves and everything. And that was, I knew that about myself, that I liked that, but the teaching English itself didn't really light my fire, and I didn't like it at all. So I kind of thought, what else can I do? I have a kines degree. Most people with kines degrees either become kinesiologists or they go on to further education to become physiotherapists or athletic therapists or something like that. And I dabbled a little bit when I was in university. I worked with the university rugby team, and I was did like an assistant athletic therapy with them, and then also with the swim team. And I dabbled a little bit in that, but then I realized that that wasn't where I wanted to go with my life because it was a lot of, honestly, it was a lot of stress. Like you had to deal with people during sometimes the worst times of their life when they become injured in a sport that they love to do and they can't do that sport anymore, or you're constantly worried about if people are going to get life altering injuries, or you have to deal with the injuries. And it was just a lot of heaviness for me, so I didn't enjoy that part of it, but I did like being part of the sport aspect of it. So then, like, bringing all that together, I realized I liked the coaching part, I liked the sport part. I have a kines degree, so I thought, what can I do with that? And then actually, this is one of the better things that came out of COVID, was that everything started shifting to be online. So I thought, well, I could start an online training business. I have the background for it. I know what I'm doing. Let's give it a try. So I actually got a certificate in precision nutrition, it's called. So it's just to be able to help coach people or consult people in improving their nutrition in habitual ways. So let's say making habits for nutrition instead of putting them on like quick, fast fad diets. And that was something that I found a lot of passion in because nutrition, of course, is really important for athletic performance, but also for everyday life. You need to focus on your nutrition. So that was something that, yeah, then I kind of went into that. I started with nutrition consulting. Then I realized I like the fitness aspect of it. So then I turned more into the nowadays Coach Shandi of personal training plus nutrition consulting.
Wow. Bam. It's incredible to hear the story come together. And I love the way that you took the skill sets that you like the most and the areas that you really thrived in. I want to fast forward present day. What is Coach Shandi?
Good question.
That's a hard one to answer.
That is a hard one to answer.
What does your
Honestly,
week to week even look like? Because I think when we say that, most people give this like fancy sentence, but like, what is your week to week as Coach Shandi right now?
Yeah. Honestly, it's ever evolving, and I think that's something that as an entrepreneur, that's what it should be. But for me, honestly, the day to day is just like I have client calls, so I help people to improve their daily lives. And I help them, let's say, coaching them through workouts or coaching them through their nutrition or coaching them in that way and connecting with people online. And I also have a part of in-person trainings that I do here in the Netherlands as well, just to kind of help balance out a little bit of that in-person feeling that I feel like I need to have. So that online portion is great, but then also having that in person a little bit. But yeah, week to week, it's just having those online consultations. Of course, the marketing and everything behind the scenes about that, and building a bigger business on that edge, like on that way. But yeah, that's essentially what it is. It's just coaching people and helping them become the best versions of themselves, or the version of themselves that they didn't think was possible.
Yeah, I have experienced your workouts in a small group setting online, but my butt was kicked. I was going to use a different word. I was sweaty, and I was doing it in a living room in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I've done it in Slovenia, but without equipment. So I love that you incorporate some mobility. You do calisthenics, so it's making it really, really tangible for people traveling. Literally, you just need a big enough space, an Airbnb. You just need, I don't even, like, just bigger than a yoga mat to be able to do your workouts. And one of the things why we were friends, but that doesn't mean I need to work with you. But one of the reasons why I was really curious about joining your training programs when you were offering them in a group setting was, I've never heard you talk about a bikini body. I've never heard you talk about let's lose weight. I've never heard you talk about how do you want to look? It's never been about physical attributes. It's always been about how do you feel? What's your lifestyle? What are the habits you're building? And as someone who, I know I have a booty and I will never be able to get rid of it because it is me. And I got a booty and it's fine. So I just love that. Maybe you can talk to me about that, of like, how do you, let's break it down. Like, what is the thing that helps you to not talk about working out and training in that way when there's such a space online for it right now as well, and that quick fix, that shred, that get lean fast, flat stomach atmosphere, and the kind of habit building? So it's kind of a two-part question. Or yeah, I'm fascinated by it, and you've always been so authentic about it, and it's made working out easy because I don't feel any pressure to perform, I guess is my like synopsis of that. Is I can just work out, get stronger, healthier, and just live a better lifestyle.
My relationship with fitness had changed so much throughout my life. And when I first, of course, started going into fitness, I started at quite a young age. Like, I was a speed swimmer competitively. So it was all about performance, and it was all about like beating your time, beating other people. And it was all about work your butt off as hard as you can for as long as you can. Like, we trained 5 days a week, and then we had swim meets on the weekend. So we didn't have any time off with that one. Then when I went into university, then it started to evolve in, okay, I'm not an athlete anymore. What do I do? So then I went into the gym for the first time. Keep in mind, I'm in a kines degree, so I'm in sport-related studies. I walk into the gym and I just see guys everywhere in tiny
Yes.
tank tops, and I'm like, where are the girls? Those like
I know what you're
sports,
talking
yeah.
about. I don't know what the gyms are like in Europe, but in Canada, I think it's still accurate.
Yeah. So you see these gym bros.
Singlets.
Exactly. But then you just think, as a female coming in there, I don't have a place here, because all of the machines are taken up. All of the, let's say, free weights are taken up. All of the squat areas are taken up. I don't even know how to do any of the exercises. And again, keep in mind, I have a science degree in body movement. So if I don't know what I'm doing, the people that don't have a science degree in body movement probably also don't know what they're doing. So I walked in there.
Being a background as an athlete, I think, is so much. Like, if you didn't grow up in sport, or at least someone showed you movement at all, it is such a like you're entering this dry desert. Like, you might as well go to Morocco in the desert. It feels the same way.
Exactly. But to answer your question, like, how did that, with me not talking about the beach body or the bikini body all the time, it's because when I walked into that gym, then I started looking more online about things, and the only things I started seeing was like how to get that bikini body, or how to get the biggest butt, or how to get the flattest stomach, or how to be the most attractive to people. And that just didn't resonate with me. Like I said, because I'm an introverted person, I'm very much self-reflective, and that whole idea about being only working out to be attractive to other people or to feel okay just gave me the biggest ick. So then I thought, for me, what would fitness be? And then I started to self-reflect a little bit about that, and I thought, you know what? Then I started having to figure out how to work out by myself. And then I started to, after a few years of going into the gym, then I started to realize how I can start working out and how I can move my body. And then I felt that feeling that I want everybody to feel, is that fitness is not about your physique. That's let's say the second, maybe that's the part of it that's additional. But the most important thing for me is that fitness is something that gives me confidence, not just while I'm doing it, but throughout the day. Like if I work out, I feel so much more confident, and that trickles down into every part of my life. I feel more confident in the gym, but I also feel more confident when I'm doing work. I feel more confident when I'm talking to other people. I feel more confident in every single aspect of my life. And that's what I want to give to other people, is that it doesn't matter what your body looks like. It just matters about how it makes you feel when you're moving your body the way that it should be moved.
It's so beautiful. And I think the confidence piece, what I always joke in my head, is feeling confident lifting your suitcase. Like
Exactly.
knowing you don't have that panic moment when you're on a train and you need to lift your suitcase to the overhead bin, or on a plane or anything. Of course, always ask for help. Like I also encourage that. But I love being strong enough to just be like, no, I don't need your help. Or also, there's been times where like the wrong people have offered to take my bags. Like one
Mm-hmm.
time, people are looking for quick money and they're like offering to lift your
Oh,
bag. And
yeah.
I understand that's how they're living their life, but I didn't even need to think about that situation, because I was like, no, I'm strong enough to lift my bag. That was the first thing that went through my head. I was like, I can do it. Why would I pay you? And
Yeah.
it's just, I think in the travel context of things, like when you feel strong enough to carry groceries because you don't have a car because you're traveling, or just anything, it's like, it's one less thing to think about. Um, you just feel like you can do anything. And of course, that confidence just comes, especially for myself, like as a female solo traveler. Like, I don't worry. If I can't lift my own bag, it's too heavy. That's also my rule. But also, I could flip it and be like, if I get stronger, I can pack more. So,
Exactly. Exactly. But on the flip side of that too, it's just also thinking about aging gracefully as well. Like if you look at the
ooh,
people, and that's honestly been a big thing in my mind as well, because I've had two sets of grandparents, one on my dad's side and one on my mom's side, of course. And on my dad's side, my grandma that I had a relationship with, she was not active really her whole life. So she was very sedentary, and then she declined quite quickly at an earlier age, I would say. Whereas my grandparents on my mom's side, they really, because they're so active in their community, and they're walking around all the time, they take the stairs all the time. Especially my grandma, they're in their 80s, 90s years old, and they're still living on their own. And that's something that I really idealize, and I really want to make sure that, like, I mean, I'm only 28, but I think, let's say 50, 60, 70, 80 years down the road, I want to be in that position where I'm still moving my body, and I'm still capable of carrying my groceries up the stairs, and I'm still capable of walking up the stairs when I'm traveling in Rome, and I'm still capable of doing all these things on my own, because I treated my body the way that it needed to be treated throughout my whole life. So instead of being sedentary, because our daily life is so focused around being sedentary nowadays, I think it's so important to give mindful movement every day to just help your body age gracefully.
yeah, and I think it's I co-sign everything you said. I think I've seen the same experience with my elders and my grandparents, and those who kept movement for their mind and their physicality, and how that impacted, as their life progressed and circle of life ended. But I also I lost my train of thought now, but it was very good. And now it's a real life about something. It was you talked about sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I think something to know is the digital nomad lifestyle is quite sedentary. We are sitting on our laptops. We're very good at multitasking. So, like, if you're going to sit on a train anyway, we're going to get work done. But something I've noticed, especially when not in a nomadic community or with like minded people around, I'm extra sedentary. North America, I'm extra sedentary because we drive to everything. We don't walk to everything. And I have access to a car, so I drive.
Yes.
So I'm curious how, so most of your training is done online. You've mentioned doing some in person in the Netherlands, which if you're in the Netherlands, you better call Shandi up because you're gonna have such a good time with her. And how has the online training been going? Give us a little insight to what that looks like. I think you have a variety of options as well. So some more like one-on-one, and then some you provide the training program and it's individually led.
Honestly, it's not made for everybody. There's people that are wanting to go into the gym and do their own thing, and I can make programs for people very easily. But the biggest thing that I like people helping is yeah, you just like, let's say for example, the one-on-one calls that I have somebody sign up, they want to do a workout with me, so I create programs for them, and then we have calls like what we're doing now. So we go on online, and there's just people that are behind the screen, I'm here, and I just say, okay, we're going to do squats now. These are the things you want to focus on when you're doing the squat. This is where you should be feeling it. I want you to focus on your breathing as well, because that's really important. And then they start to do it, and then I give them feedback about that, and then they can slowly add things into, because it's usually at home, they can slowly add equipment in if they have the ability to buy more equipment, or if they just want to focus strictly on calisthenics, then we just do body weight workouts. And the evolution that I've seen from, let's say, the majority of my clients I've been working with for over a year, and just the evolution of seeing the confidence build, especially in young women, I think is it's such an incredible feeling, and I can't ever explain it in words. But just to hear somebody say, you know what, a year ago I wouldn't be able to do the things that I'm doing. I wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to, for example, lift my kids. I wouldn't be able to um, walk confidently. Even like I said, for myself, having that confidence through that day-to-day life, it's something that everybody feels when they start to move their bodies more, and then your body starts to crave it. So it starts to crave that movement, and it starts to want more. And then you start to move your body more. And then you start to realize that you get more energy in the things that you're doing. And then that energy trickles into pouring energy into your businesses. It started trickling into pouring energy into your family life. And then everything in your life just improves. And that feeling of being able to witness people from their starting point of, falling in love, or maybe they start hating fitness, then they call me, then they start to think, oh, there's actually something for me in fitness and I actually enjoy it. Then you get to witness them fall in love with fitness and fall in love with themselves. I think that is such an incredible feeling. And to be able to witness that time and time again with all the clients that I have is just, again, unexplainable to be able to see that. And I love that part about my job.
Oh, there's a sparkle in her eye for sure. I just think I love that again, it's never been about it is about performance of the accuracy of how they're performing certain exercises. I think you emphasize that, you make sure there's proper technique. We want to prevent injury, but there's not the performance aspect of leading to a specific kind of competitive nature. And I think in my experience with you, I feel like you've always been adaptable. You're so well versed in a variety of exercises that if someone shows up and says, look, like today's not my day, but I'm showing up to do some movement, you're so well versed in mobility exercises as well. And if someone wants to push, really wants to gain strength and muscle, you can have that happen. If someone's like, I just want to start with something, like I know it can improve my life. I think you're so good at building those habits. And it's one of the things that I really admire about you as a trainer. And then also doing it online. Like, I think it's so cool that someone can say, I'm in a stationary place, but if you change and they change time zones, you're so adaptable, you're understanding of that. You've been to 40 countries, like you get it being in a different country and people having to be changing their schedule, or, I'm traveling that day, I can't do it this day. Can we do it another day? So how has that been working with international clients and being on different time zones with people?
Yeah. Honestly, you know this about me. I'm very much a paper and pen person. So
I don't know how she does it, guys. Like, I'm a paper and pen for the ideas, but the paper gets thrown away. I don't know how
yeah,
you keep track of
no.
anything.
I have a very thick agenda, and my day to day is planned out that way. And I write the person's time zone that they're in, and then I write my time zone in there, and then that's how I do it. And then I just put it into my team's meetings, and then that's it. But honestly, I'm, again, with that introvertedness also comes a little bit of perfectionism for me, anyways. And that was something that I'm very meticulous about times and making sure I'm on time with meetings and making sure that everything is ordered and proper, and I'm never like frazzled with things. So I think that's been something that's been very, let's say, easy for me, quote unquote easy, to be able to handle like all the different time zones and everything. But yeah, like working with people from all over the world, I think is such a unique ability as well. And I think it's really cool to be able to connect to people that are from different walks of life. But then in the end, they're all looking for the same thing, and they're all looking for that confidence in themselves. And I'm so happy that I'm able to help them find that confidence in them to be able to move their body the way that they want to.
And I should mention you are a bilingual trainer. So Shandi can do Dutch as well. I know you're a little bit shyer on that, but I know that you can. So
Yeah,
she
I
can do
can.
English
Yeah.
or Dutch. She prefers English.
I
But
prefer English. Yeah.
I can only imagine, because there's obviously like learning social language and then learning a specific niche or industry of language as well. That's a second language in itself. So
well, and talking about the confidence aspect is just you have to learn how to confidently speak in a child's language, because like when you learn a new language, you don't automatically start speaking the level of what an adult would speak. You speak of like what a 5-year-old would speak. And so I'm trying to train people. Maybe I'm at an 8-year-old level now and I'm trying to explain exercises to people, but still then you just think, like in my mind, it's that confidence aspect of I'm super, super smart in English. I can explain exactly what I want. I can tell you what muscles I want you to feel. I can tell exactly how to brace your core, how to do these things. Very well adept in that aspect of speaking in English. Trying to translate that into Dutch, then I'm like, okay, instead of saying, you have to think about doing this and doing that in Dutch, I'm like, right foot forward. it's very choppy. It's not as good. But again, that's part of the confidence aspect of just having to do it and to learn. And that's the same as with activity too. Like you have to start somewhere, and your starting point isn't ever going to be the best of where you're at. It's actually going to be the worst of where you're ever going to be at. So it's just starting at the worst, getting to your best.
yeah, it's so funny because like instead of saying side core, you want to learn the Dutch word for obliques. And I good on you is all. I don't know. I am definitely at like a 2-year-old in Portuguese, so I don't even know. I feel like I'm going to gift you one wish. So I've got a genie bottle, and if I could grant you one wish about what's next for Coach Shandi, or if someone could help you accelerate to like another part, what would you grant this genie to give you?
I think just being able to touch as many lives as possible. I think that's my biggest thing. And to also help people understand that it's not difficult to get started with moving, but it's not easy. That's the biggest thing for me. So what I mean by that is that it's not difficult, let's say, to start moving, but it's not easy in the way that you don't know. Let's say, like Anna, say for example, you are getting started on your fitness journey. You don't know what to do. Where do you start looking?
But that's why I have you. So I think for me, where I view that, and I come from a dance background, so I actually feel quite well versed in calisthenics, non-equipment movement. When it gets to a gym, I freeze. That whole story you said, I do not know what to do when there's tank top boys around. Like I don't know equipment. I don't know the big equipment. But I think for me, why I would hire someone like you is to exactly eliminate that. It's also the idea that you get to work with somebody, not someone works for you. You get to work as a team. You get to provide feedback on your body and how things are feeling, and taking out that guesswork. And all I have to do is show up. I have to show up for you. And usually when there's money involved, people show up. So also just think about that when you're paying for any kind of service, oftentimes you show up, and that's why a trainer is so good for that. But also you just get this like, I wouldn't know where to begin. Like all I know is I want to get stronger. I want to lift my suitcase better. I want to be more active. I want to live less sedentary, but I don't know how to fit that into my schedule and everything. But I think it's for sure this accountability aspect of things. It's you have all the repertoire to tell me what to do, and I just got to show up and get my butt kicked.
Yeah. There's a really nice saying that I like to refer to coaching as well, that hiring a coach is like having a GPS when you're going on a road trip. So it's like taking you from point A straight to point B. you can get there on your own without the coach or without the GPS, but you're going to have to take a lot of detours and a lot of different routes that you wouldn't have to take if you had that coach.
And you
So let's
still have to
say
drive the car. That's, I think, something
exactly,
that's important too, is like you still have to put in the work, you still have to drive the car, but
exactly.
a better route.
And that's the thing that I've noticed, let's say in my time as a coach, is that there's people that hire me to do the work for them. And that's something that's not ever going to happen in this industry, is that it's your body. So you're going to have to be able to learn how to take care of it. And I help you learn how to take care of it. But indeed, you are the one driving. You're the one that has to do that work. And so it's just finding that, let's say for me, coaching is not just telling people how to do an exercise. It's teaching people how to learn how to learn. So it's how to learn how to figure out how to do this exercise and do it on your own, and find that confidence in doing those things and taking it in different aspects of your life too, not just in fitness, but also in nutrition, and then also in different, it trickles into everyday life as well. But it's just learning how to learn. And I think that takes it in fitness industry, but also in different industries as well.
So cool. So cool. So if I'm wanting to get started in my fitness journey and I am a digital nomad or someone who's traveling part-time, longer time, I'm kind of switching locations. I think this is really good too for people who travel a lot for their work, but might really have a home base as well. What's your first suggestion of a program you might offer, a service you might offer of a good place for them to start with?
Like working with me, you mean?
Yeah, we want to work with you.
Honestly, it depends on what you want. So if people like the motivation, or if they like the accountability, which is a big thing, then I would definitely obviously suggest the one-on-one calls. So doing workouts together. But if you're more of a person that, can do it on your own, you just don't know what kind of movements, or you need a program for yourself, I also help people build programs. And then we do assessment check-ins every 6 weeks. So we're still followed along. I don't just give you a program and say good luck with it for the rest of your life. We do 6-week programs. So we do the program, do an assessment. After 6 weeks, are you making progress? Yes or no? We check that. I do a progress assessment with you. And then we change that program to help you continuously make that progress that you want to make, depending on your goals. So if it's hypertrophy or muscle growth, let's say.
Wait,
So
what was that? Hyper what?
Hypertrophy, it's called. So it's essentially just a fancy word for muscle growth. So that's essentially what most people want is hypertrophy or muscle growth. So if that's your goal, is to look, let's say, a little bit more toned and a little bit stronger, then I can help you get there. But if it's also, let's say, more, more athletic based, like I've worked with swimmers in the past as well to help build their speed and their agility in the pool, then of course you're going to be doing different exercises with that one, and different speeds and different everything with that. So it's just taking where you're at, where your goals are, and then we work together to create that program, and we continuously check that assessment. So check your progress to make sure that you are making progress, and then we work together that way. But again, you're in the driver's seat. So you're the one that has to put in that work, and you're the one that has to want to do it.
Yeah, I love that. I love the 6-week check-in because it's still an accountability piece. Like you don't want to show up 6 weeks later and be in the same place. So
Exactly.
I love that holds you accountable, but give some flexibility depending on someone's schedule and what their moods are, what their feelings are, and everything in between. So
yeah,
it's great. And if you want to experience Coach Shandi, she might be helping out with the Montenegro trip that's coming up too. So
yes.
I'm scared and excited to have my butt kicked again, but I think it's going to be so great to get to experience your workouts and that. And I'm so excited to see where you go. And I think there's some great things in your future. So also if there's any like co-livings or nomad festivals, I'm going to pitch you to them because I think Shandi offers a great chance. She doesn't need to come in person because again, she's an online trainer. So her best work is working with people online, and she can demonstrate what she does without having to come in person. And then everyone actually gets some movement in, probably shows up better to the festival. And we're energized and excited to be there.
Yeah. Thanks for the pitch, Anna.
No worries. No worries. All right. I think we're going to wrap up there. As you get to know Shandi in her podcast, I'm sure you'll get to know more about her business and kind of the insides of what's happening. But we are going to stop there. We are Where She Builds podcast. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube and Spotify at Where She Builds. I am Anna, at Your Travel Friend Anna, and we've been chatting with Shandi, Coach Shandi, on all the platforms. Until the next episode.
Yes. Bye.
Ciao for now.